Concert. WFUV proudly presents another Barococo program hosted by that unique and internationally acclaimed music appreciationist DeKoven. May we point out that the term barococo was coined by DeKoven to combine the terms Baroque and rococo, which he notes covers the golden age of music technically from about 1600 to 1780. However, DeKoven also includes from time to time much of the music of the classic and romantic periods to about 1828, which was the year of Schubert's death, and sometimes, for sound reasons, some of the later romantics and moderns. These DeKoven concerts, which have been on the air for more than 20 years, depend upon your support of the Barococo Society as well as of WFUV. Gifts to DeKoven should be addressed only to him. The name is spelled capital D-E, capital K-O-V-E-N. Mail sent to him is seen by no one but DeKoven himself. Gifts intended for this station should be made out to the WFUV Fund. All mail should be addressed either to DeKoven, when intended specifically for him, or to WFUV at Fordham University, Bronx, New York, 10458. Even if you can't manage a gift at this time, your mail is a constant source of encouragement to him and to this station in the continued presentation of these programs. And now we give you the incomparable DeKoven.
May I inform you that if you ever hear a statement on these programs that seem out of date or obviously edited, it's only because the tape most likely is a repeat program, because so many have asked for it. So please bear in mind that whenever anything sounds inaccurate, impossible, or incredible, 4 words are always implied, as of this taping. I have an out-of-season Easter cantata that was long attributed to Bach until a recent discovery has established it as definitely by Telemann. And I wonder how many other so-called Bach creations will join the imposing list of works that the musical world has always regarded as by Bach until scholarship gives them back to their rightful creators. This will by no means lessen Bach's stature, for they are rarely works of top Bach quality, which is one reason why the search for the true author was started in the first place. Some authorities say this couldn't possibly have been by the mighty Bach. It's not good enough for him, or it's not quite his style, which is sheer nonsense. Bach wrote a lot, if not oceans of music, that is not in his so-called style and is far, far from great, as did all the giants. So the quality is by no means a criterion. In fact, I wish all those music lovers, and especially musical bigwheels, would get it through their heads that just because a work was written by Bach, Haydn, Beethoven, Handel, or even Mozart, who wrote less drivel than anyone else, that therefore it must be great. Poppycock. I'd any day rather listen to listenable top Mendelssohn, Brahms, Berlioz, sometimes even Saint-Saëns, Franck, and Respighi, and God forgive me, even top Wagner, or any second or third-rate barococo master, than fourth and fifth-rate music by the 7 giants. And so should you, if you have the exquisite taste you think you have, for I call all such humdrum stuff gum-chewing music. Now, this work formerly by Bach is a solo cantata for tenor solo, violin obbligato, and continuo, and obviously meant for Easter Sunday. It's the cantata number 160 and is an Errato of France production now available on MHS, coupled with that great Bach masterpiece, cantata number 147, Herz und Mund, and which I've brought you on no longer listed cantata records, but which was all they gave there. The way this number 160 came to be finally established as definitely by Telemann is a very fascinating story, marvelously related by Carl Denise in the fabulous notes here. Well, let's start this program with the opening aria as sung by Helmut Krebs, who sings the title aria, Ich weiß, dass mein Erlöser lebt, a familiar Bach title, which makes me wonder, isn't there some other recording of this work? You tell me if you know, for I cannot track it down. Well, here's some divine Telemann, even if only a solo cantata. Super OTW music. That was the great opening aria from Telemann's cantata Ich weiß, dass mein Erlöser lebt, formerly attributed to Bach as cantata number 160, with Fritz Werner and the Heilbronn und Baden-Baden groups, and of course the soloist in this solo cantata, Helmut Krebs. The chief reason why this and so many other works were mistakenly attributed to Bach is because he studied the scores of so many masters, as he did with many of Telemann's scores too, and whom he knew very well, so much so that he asked Georg Philipp to act as godfather for his third son, and that's how the child was christened Carl Philipp Emanuel. For as you recall, everyone in those days was called by his second, not his first name. So when they found all those so-called original scores in Bach's workshop, and which primitive printed scores frequently had no author's name attached to them, they were assumed to have been written by Bach. But thanks to the clever detection of the musicologists, they are one by one all going back to their rightful owners, as in this so-called cantata number 160, which Telemann certainly wrote. And you'll have to read the wonderful jacket notes on this MHS 547 to learn how and why we're so sure of that. But musical heritage is again up to their perennial boners here. Their super sloppy proofreading, almost numberless this time. What I don't get is how can such a distinguished person as the top boss of MHS, who is of German origin, allow such butchering of German to appear on so many of his jackets? Here the title, for instance, is misspelled at least 3 times with even word omissions, even on the face of the jacket, where there is no small type to squint over. Nor is anything timed here, an omission which they more and more seem to be guilty of. The fact that they sell for a low price does not justify such low mistakes. Their competition are doing a far better job physically. They, I mean MHS, remain nonpareil musically. That's why I love them deep down for their erstwhile barococo fixation, or I wouldn't play them so often, more even than any other company save perhaps Westminster and London's Oiseau Lyre, on my later tapes that is. Now, the rest of this cantata has two equally super OTW arias, at least one of which I'll bring you at the end. I also hope I can bring you at least the opening chorus from the super OTW cantata number 147, Herz und Mund, on this same MHS 547. Now, here's another of the better low-priced records, None Such. The disc is called the Baroque Trumpet, like a lot of unimaginatively entitled discs, as with the Sons of Bach. It seems that the magic word Baroque is all you need on a record now to sell it. And guess who's chiefly responsible for that happy event? Well, this marvelous disc, with about 16 selections from Lully, Fuchs, Telemann, Purcell, even Stölzel et al. Here, with no umlaut or an E to replace it. So, thus do they all. Così fan tutti. Well, let's hear from this sampler record, which is just what it is, though not called that. And, as with most barococo samplers, it looks like the listings for a DeKoven concert, so it's a smorgasbord, from which I first want to hear with you Lully's Fanfare from the Royal Tournament, which is just super OTW. And because it's so short, we'll let the needle spin on into the next band, which is Telemann's Trumpet Concerto, and they offer none but the vivace movement from it. Here it is. Telemann's Trumpet Concerto, preceded by Lully's Fanfare. You see, what we have here is a musical menu a la DeKoven, which ancient format of mine is spreading more and more over the four corners of the Baroque world. But stupidly, ignorantly, or just plain lazily enough, neither the none-such people nor their noted annotator here, Edward Tatnall Canby, make the slightest attempt to identify even the key of this Telemann trumpet concerto, of which he must have written dozens. And that's not an oversight, but a dereliction, for most of the keys of the other works are given. Besides which, even if no one at Nonesuch can identify a key from the score or the music, surely Edward Tatnall Canby, who has become a producer and conductor of his own records and is obviously a professional musician, surely must be able to identify the key just by hearing it, let alone from the printed score. But I am no professional musician, Gott sei Dank, and while I can identify a key from the printed score as can any first-year music student, I am not possessed of the kind of ear you need to be able to hear the precise key of a work without the score. But any real musician can or should be able to. Besides, many of the 16 works here are very poorly identified, but it's still a record well worth having, for I am all for samplers, when at least some of the works are OTW. And while this selection certainly lacks the DeKoven taste touch, it's still fine for new collectors and for old, rare nugget seekers, especially when it's a bargain like this. And I have to buy them just as you do, and for the very same price. And that's another hint I hope won't fall on deaf ears. And I also hope you barococo purists won't castigate me for playing the upcoming work by Renaissance master Jacques Modan, for as monotonous and so-called primitive as most pre-Baroque music is, there are as many, if not far more OTW things there as in post-Barococo music, which is why I sometimes will stray from my chosen field, which should indicate how really Catholic my taste is, for those who constantly tell me that their taste is eclectic and mine is not. Baloney. Now, if you're ever given a record to annotate, and that'll be the day, since they won't even let me annotate records for them, I suggest that you read the anonymous notes to this Harmonie Mundi foreign disc called Tanzmusik der Renaissance to learn how to say nothing at all that pertains to the music on the record. All you have to do is look up in any music dictionary something about the subject of the record, forget what's on the record, and write, or better still, just copy. Almost no one will ever be the wiser. So I had to look up Jacques Modan in Groves. Baker's doesn't even list him. And there I found that his dates are still uncertain, but he's a 16th century master, which means the 1500s, just to talk down to the know-it-alls who don't know that the know-nothings far outnumber the know-it-alls. An obvious fact to anyone in radio. Modan, what a strange name, like a man called Mr. Ancient or Mr. Modern. Well, he was also maître de chapelle at Notre-Dame du Confort at Lyon, where between 1532 and 1567 he published many works which seem to be lost, till someone will dig them up, as dig they will in time. Well, here are Jacques Modan's 4 super OTW Branle de Bourgogne, originally a French dance which became very popular in England, in fact in all Europe. Well, here are the dances, very exciting. some wonderful French dances called Branly de Bourgogne by Jacques Modan. Okay, so they are pretty monotonous, but I think nonetheless deliciously repetitious. Do you? If so, say so. An imported Harmonie Mundi, and I'll spare you as usual that inevitable blow rundown of each player. No conductor here are needed. Isn't that what just about everyone else on the air would have bored you with? Who needs every blasted name of every piddling performer except a musical moron, a relative, or an envious or idolatrous schmiro worshiper? But your typical announcer or commentator, especially who would recite the names of every performer or walk-on listed on the jacket, even if there were 22,000 of them, not one of whom you ever heard of before and will probably never hear of again in your entire lifetime. Oh, well. Now for another one of those super delectable early Mozart symphonies, this time the number 11 in D, K84, and another irresistible Capapied charmer. So I'm hard put as to whether to play the longish first movement or the remaining slow movement and final allegro, which is taken by Leinsdorf almost, if not just, like a presto. And I like that about Eric, the not-so-great, insofar as his musical taste goes. As I always say, loving Mozart to the exclusion of almost all other barococo masters is no proof of very good taste. It only proves that you love Mozart. And that's Eric Leinsdorf. Anyway, for now, here are the Andante and the last fast movement. Maybe it's not the very living end here, but it's not a dead end either. But it certainly is music to do whatever it is you're doing by. And that's enough for me, the one and only Mozart. On that great Westminster, complete Mozart symphonies with Leinsdorf and the London Philharmonic, we heard two of the three super delicious and all that, Mozart Symphony No. 11 in D, K only 84. And that was a strange ending, I agree. He was 14 years old in 1770 when he wrote it in Milan. But don't forget that Mozart, age 14, would be the equivalent of about age 25 with almost any of the other top masters, save for Schubert and Telemann. The jacket notes for these all Mozart discs, and again by Mr. Anonymous, are extremely interesting. Let's move forward now to another work from that Baroque trumpet on Nonsuch. We'll hear the 15th piece on this sampler. It's called Suite No. 2 from Concert de Symphony by J. Aubert, who is